So, guys, pay attention because we do a class now, and the whole world is waiting for this class. So, we're honored to have extra, but that's where we got to focus. Okay. So, welcome to the Baal Shem Kollel here in Tzfat, Israel. And today we're going to give a class on the idea of blessings. Now, a blessing is an interesting thing. Why? Because, first of all, the word blessing, we know, has the idea of hamshacha. Ein bracha, the idea of a blessing is to be mamshich, to draw down. So whenever we eat something, whenever we do a mitzvah, we're always making a blessing. Now, why are we making a blessing and doing a mitzvah already? So the idea is because we want to draw down this divine energy into the matter that we're doing. That's really one of the big stories of life, is to bring godliness into our world. Now, we find that there are many types of blessings. You have a blessing from a tzaddik. A tzaddik is a blessing. So what's the idea of having a blessing from a tzaddik? Why could a tzaddik's blessing work so well? Right? We know the Rebbe, it's very funny, in a certain religion, if they can find that in a lifetime a person gave 3 blessings, let's say, I don't know, to get healed, the doctors will attest that the person can get healed. The sign, the guy's a saint. 3, if the guy was, I don't know, a priest, and at his lifetime he gave a couple million blessings, the odds are he's going to be a saint. But with the Rebbe, Lahavdil, every Sunday dollars, there were like blessings. You can even see a video, amazing video, where a person goes by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe actually, the father says, the Rebbe, my son can't speak. And the Rebbe says to the son, say Maida'ani. And literally the child says Maida'ani. You see a miracle in front of your face. And I've heard myself miracles upon miracles upon miracles. Miracle, the non-stop miracle. Even this very moment, there are miracles. People are writing for oil, they're getting miracles, lots and lots of miracles. Yes. So the question is, how was the Rebbe so powerful? How could he do this? And the answer is that the tzaddik has a kind of, it's a tzaddik b'munasa yichya. A tzaddik lives through his faith. In other words, the tzaddik who has tremendous faith in Hashem automatically has the power of giving blessings. We know that Avraham Avinu was called Rosh L'Ma'aminim, the head of people of faith. And Hashem said, whoever you bless will be blessed, whoever curses you will be cursed. So Hashem gives a special effort to the special gift to the tzaddikim. The tzaddik, he is, let's try another point. Right, so in a certain sense, you don't have to be a tzaddik to give a bracha. Any Jew that is sincere, that is connected to Hashem, is capable of giving blessings. And a person, even a Gentile, it says, Birchas Hedjit al tiyakal beinecha. The blessing of a simple person shouldn't be simple. It shouldn't be simple in your eyes. Why? Because we find, it says in Gemara, that Hashem has a prayer to himself. What's Hashem's prayer to himself? It's that his attribute of mercy should overpower his anger, and that he should judge his children favorably. This is said of Gemara Brachas, Dav Zayin, and then in the same thing it says a story that Hashem once, Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol went into, I think, the Kodesh HaKadoshim. He saw exactly what he saw. I don't know, but he saw God somehow. And God said, Yishmol b'ni barcheni. Yishmol, my son, give me a blessing. He said, maybe your will, Hashem. Sheyichbeshu kascha yishku rachamecha. I forgot exact words, but basically that your mercy should overcome your anger. Yogoylu rachamecha mideisecha, that your compassion should overcome all your other attributes, and you should bless your children with mercy. And it's a nice blessing, in fact, because we all have this capacity to be kind, and we also have a capacity when we're angry to be cruel. And none of us want to remember even, people like Chavez. Before he passed away, the guy was a real criminal, but he felt bad. Why? Because people get defensive, and when they get defensive, they they're becoming aggressive more as a defensive mechanism. But when he's about to pass away, he's got nothing to defend anymore. And now he can look at his life and say, "Oy vey, what did I do?" So that's the way it is. The people, anyway. So if you can prevent that in the first place, become compassionate and not get defensive, it's a pretty good situation. So even a Gentile has a power. If a person connected to Hashem, I remember this guy, Eddie. Eddie is an interesting character. Eddie was a guy that he was like, I don't know what he was. He was an interesting read. I don't know what he was in Africa. But he worked for a Yiddish guy. He was like the mechanic. Now, Eddie was like a big believer in Hashem, a good guy, would help. He was like a Christian, but like an evangelical Christian, a simple but good guy. And so once, saying a story of Eddie, so once what happened was Eddie notices his boss is feeling down. And he said, "Why are you feeling down?" He says he had gold, and the gold went down, and his lost his money, his wealth is not doing well. So Eddie tells his boss, he says, "Tell me, how much do you want the gold to be?" "Well, what's the price you would sell your gold at?" So he said to him, "I don't know, whatever." The gold was at $2, $5. He said, "No problem. The gold's going to get to $5, and I want you to sell at $5. So Eddie davens to Hashem, the gold goes, he gets to $5, you sell it, the gold goes down. And that's the power of a human being with real faith. I read a book which really helped me in my tshuva process. It's called Gateway to Trust. You familiar with Gateway to Trust? Very, very good book. I read Tshuva by Steinfeld. There's a very important book to read, especially a smart guy. It's called Choyves HaLevavis, Duties of the Heart. Rabbeinu Bachayin's buried here, one of the classic books, and in it it's called Gateway to Trust. And if you ever would tell people, like business people that were a little stressed about money, and say, read the Gateway to Trust. When you finish reading the Gateway to Trust, you'll be so certain that Hashem loves you and He's going to take care of you. You'll have no more anxiety. And there's studies, Harvard studies, where people that read it better than antidepressants. Because he shows you how much Hashem does for you. After I read that, I was like, I was literally trusting Hashem to the level that if it was raining outside, I was like, of course Hashem would make it stop raining. And it would stop raining. Because if you're trusting Hashem,
that's different. More than a Buno.
Right. Exactly. If you're trusting Hashem is absolute, then it's real. You know.
Trust, you got to get that bus every goal.
What?
Have to get on that bus.
Right. It's not simple. It's not simple.
You can fall backwards.
Yeah. Right, exactly. That's trust. I have a friend, an Israeli guy, who he has that kind of trust. He told me, I can go, whatever, with nothing down the street. Everything will be fine. And so this guy, I mentioned the story the other day. He was at the Super Bowl, one of the big games of the Chiefs in Kansas City. And they were down. It was like bad news. If they would lose this game, they'd be out of the Super Bowl. It would be a big catastrophe. So he starts to daven, Shema Yisrael, it was the game. And Mama Shalom, it never happened in the history. They made 4 touchdowns within 20 minutes. It never happened in the history of Super Bowl, of football. So
it was a big skin.
Right. So it shows the power. The Maggid speaks about this, by the way. It shows the power. He says that there's 2 aspects of Hashem wants. He wants a munah, he wants Torah mitzvahs. So a munah on its own is one of the key desires that Hashem wants. What do you want in a way? Sometimes, what do you want from your kids? Your kids to trust you. Not to serve you necessarily, but to trust you. And trust is a very, very, obviously the only reason Hashem is telling you that is because it's good for us, but you certainly want that your children should trust you. And like Hashem said, if they only trusted in me, I would have taken care of it. I would have taken care of everything.
That's right.
So it's very important that no question, if we trust in Mashiach will come, Mashiach will be here tomorrow. We have to get to the level of trust. And there is a way to get to that level, and it's through reading this book, The Gateway to Trust. We really recommend it, because if you read it, I actually have a translation. It's also on the Amazon. If you read it, your mamish, you'll raise your consciousness and your awareness. And that's part of what we do. We have to dive in every day. Because anybody that gets to a level of complete faith, that will work for them. The faith will come in. And so we often, now, it doesn't mean it's the only system. You can have a bracha, and we said before, you can do something extra. There are other things to do. But there's probably nothing as powerful as real trust. In fact, the Baal Shem said, you have to dive in for trust. Why? Because what happens if something, God forbid, bad has to happen to somebody, they'll take away their level of trust, because you can't hurt somebody that has trust in Hashem. And that's how powerful trust is. It's just like this energy system that will just give you everything. You just have to trust. And that's why you don't even have to be a frum Jew. If your faith in Hashem is complete, it's like automatic. If you trust your father is going to be there. So we have to get to a level of, and again, there are things that we can do, getting to the level of trust. So blessing, the idea of a blessing, one other thing about the blessing, we've spoken a lot, our tiny class was a lot, so we'll have a shorter class on this. But one other thing of the blessing is very, 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 very interesting. And that is that every mitzvah, a person has basically three elements. You've learned Tanya before? Oh, good. You do Chitas? Chumash Tilim Tanya, the daily Chumash Tilim Tanya.
I don't do daily.
You should. It brings a lot of brachas.
It's a lot of things.
I know, but I'm telling you.
I trust that Hashem is taking care of me.
There you go. So you don't have to do it. Don't worry.
Everything that I need to do will be done. That's where my thing comes.
Nice. So in any event, the idea is that, how do I get on? So the Rebbe says that one of the ideas of Tanya is that we have, a human being has basically 5 layers. You have the deepest layer, which is your neshama, which is Hashem. Then you have your mind. And your mind, of course, has 3 levels, Chacham bin Adas. Then you have your heart, your emotion, which is mainly love and fear. And so those are what we would call the expressions of the soul, but they're almost a little bit subconscious. They're what run the soul. Then you have machshava divrei ma'aser, as that becomes in your conscious mind, your thought, your speech, and your action. So what we really have to be aligned to, like we were saying before, is that our thought, speech, and action, which is kind of our behavior, should be aligned to our values, because our values can often be here. Our thought, speech, and action, because we have a Yitzhahara, could be here. So we have to try to align. We're always in the tshuva, align ourselves with thought, speech, and action. So every mitzvah has thought, speech, and action. So let's say you have the mitzvah Torah study. So there's a bracha, and there's a speaking, there's the thinking, in a certain sense, the doing. On the other hand, where do you see it most? Let's say an action mitzvah, giving, well, it's stuff, you don't really see a bracha as much. But I don't know, an action mitzvah, like putting on tefillin. So there's the intention, that's the thought. The speech is the bracha, and then the action of doing. So everything has a thought, speech, and action. And we know that speech and action are very, very important, even though Torah at certain levels, the deepest connection to Hashem, but yet the speech and the action in a certain sense are more important, because this whole world was here so we can merge Hashem into this reality. And we merge Him most through speech and action. When we speak and we act, we are bringing the godliness from the highest levels into the very physical reality itself, because you're using your physical body, and you're using the physical world. You're saying words of godliness, as we said before, the holiness, the Kedusha will now merge into this world. And the conclusion that Eva says that we have already gone to the whole world. We've transformed the world is already a godly place, a little bit like when you're landing a plane, you see all the lights. You know, if you ever fly into New York, you see all the lights. So the world is already ready for Mashiach. The whole thing is bright. And now we just need Mashiach, where it's like the inner world is already bright. Mashiach will just get rid of all the schmutz. You know, yesterday, everything is, Avodas Hashem. So on Shabbos, somehow there was a sewage backup in Tzfat. And so at 4 a.m., I took a walk, and I sent a little message to the mayor. So Baruch Hashem at 6 a.m. Now it's a beautiful, everything came okay. So Tzfas was always a beautiful place. There's a little bit of schmutz on the top. Now for Tzfas to become Tzfas, it's thousands of years. Beautiful. So then one day, you make a right phone call, the whole thing. One day Mashiach is going to come. All the schmutz is going to be gone. Be very clear what is evidence. The Rambam says the nations will see that whatever their ancestors told them was a lie, but the Torah is true, right? As what is it? Robin Williams, he has this line that the Muslims get to heaven and they want what their rewards are, and then Thomas Jefferson and Scott Adams, he started to beat them. He said, "What happened? We're expecting."
You wanted Virginia?
And so he said there was a typo. It's Virginians. And then the Christians get up, and not to put anyone down, but he's like, "So sorry that you were." But when Mashiach comes, it's not that everyone goes down, but everyone's elevated to their highest status. We know when Mashiach comes that everybody gets an elevation, right? It says the Goyim will get to the level of Mishnagdim, the Mishnagdim will get to the level of Shiddim, Shiddim will get to the level of Rebbe. This it doesn't say, but I'll say this because
Jerusalem, the world will all be Israel.
Right. Everything gets elevated. Maybe the animal level gets every level goes higher. We all get higher. And so l'chaim b'bracha, we should immediately see this. It will have infinite joy and clarity. And we're coming to Shavuos. We have to have tremendous preparation. There's a beautiful thing called I Chassid. And you have to look at this, the 2:30 class, but you look at the ichassid.com, everything that I've said in the last 4 years, how to prepare for Shavuos, what to do in Shavuos. L'chaim b'bracha.